This is the Daily Items One-on-One. Our guest today is the new Nature Program Director at the BVRA, Becky Cunfer, interviewed by Robert Ingalls. Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Robert Ingalls with the Daily Item. Our guest today is Becky Cunfer, Nature Director for the Buffalo Valley Recreation Authority. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, my daughter, my oldest daughter, I should say, is a freshman in high school. She just had her first ever finals this morning. And she doesn't have to be to school till like 10 o'clock. So I took her fishing this morning just to relax and sort of get her mind off of things, de-stress a little bit beforehand. How did you go about getting into nature? What got you into it?
Absolutely. So I grew up on a farm. My whole family has owned a farm for many, many years. I'm the 9th generation that actually grew up on the family farm.
Wow.
Yes, and we grew everything that we needed to survive, honestly. It was a sustainability farm, so we could grow all of our own food. And then the crop that we were most known for was our strawberries. So my mom was known as the strawberry queen, and I was the strawberry princess.
That is funny.
Yes.
That's a long time to be on a family farm.
It is.
Especially these days.
Absolutely, especially because now, more than ever, the farms are getting turned into developments or into shopping malls or all kinds of other things. Everything seems to be getting developed. Although I will say I'm relatively new to the Lewisburg area, and it's awesome to see all the agriculture right outside of town. I have a beautiful commute on my way in. It's like a 40-minute commute because I live in Millville, and I pass the Amish garden markets, and I get to see all the beautiful fields filled with wildflowers and the cows, and there's a baby billy goat that I pass on my way too, so it's really neat.
My grandparents on my mom's side had a dairy farm, so I was used to cows and things like that. What was your favorite part about growing up in that kind of environment?
Definitely 4-H. So I was very involved in Girl Scouts, 4-H, and then church as well. And in 4-H, I was involved in all the different programs, everything from 4-H Exchange Club, which is where I found my love of traveling. We went to Colorado one year. We went to California one year. I did everything in 4-H from sewing to the Exchange Club. And then I also raised animals as well. So I had chickens, I had sheep, I had pigs, cows, goats, you name it. And I love being able to take care of those animals. And now being a grown-up, I learned a lot of life skills through all of that. I learned how to balance a checkbook. I learned how to manage my resources by purchasing all the feed and show supplies for my animals, and then booking which fairs I would show in. So I learned a lot of life skills through that.
That's impressive. You don't always think of farms as teaching some of that stuff, but you're right. It's a business. You need to learn how to do that. But it sounds like you were pretty far into it. What did you go to college for?
I went to college for environmental education with a focus in wildlife care and rehabilitation. Very unique major, which is really, as far as I know, only found at the college I went to. It's known as America's Environmental College, and it's Unity College in Maine. So I went 10 hours north to go to college. My older brother went there as well. And it's known for all of its environmental programs. And what's also very unique about Unity is all the programs are very interactive. So instead of the typical colleges that say do their orientation where they come into a big auditorium and they learn about each other and do icebreakers, and then their classes are typically in an original classroom where there's like PowerPoints and stuff, Unity College is not like that. My orientation was a week-long sea kayaking adventure on Moosehead Lake where we had to pack everything in and pack everything out. We set up our tents. We survived thunderstorms together. That was our orientation. And then our classes were more internship-based. What a typical student does for an internship is what all of our classes were like. So I was out in the field with a fisheries biologist. I was working with a bear biologist, climbing into bear dens with live bears. That's very unique to Unity.
So you just mentioned climbing into bear dens.
Yes.
My youngest daughter, who's 4, one of her favorite books is We're Going on a Bear Hunt.
It's a great book.
She loves that book. We have to read it to her almost every day. She likes the little videos that go with it. Were there bears in the den when you went?
Yes, live bears. So the whole point of going into the den was we had put GPS collars on them prior to that. So they were trapped during the summertime, and then we followed them. We kept GPS locations of them, and we figured out where they were denning. And once we figured out that location, we would continue to monitor them. During the right season, which was usually January or February, we would go to that bear den when they were already hibernating, and we would see if they had any cubs. At that point, we would check their GPS collars, change batteries if we needed to. We would pull the milk tooth, which is right behind
Wait. So while they were in the den
Uh-huh.
and sleeping,
Yeah.
you would go in and change the batteries and the collars?
So I skipped a step.
Okay.
We would check to make sure they were in the den, and then we would tranquilize them.
Okay.
Yes, we did
Okay.
tranquilize them first before we got too active, because we would pull out the baby cubs if there were any cubs. And my job often was just to hold the baby bear cub and keep it warm while the other team members would do the GPS collars. They would take blood samples, tissue samples, pull a tooth to make sure that the bear was healthy. We would give antibiotics if they weren't healthy, that sort of thing.
That sounds like a crazy experience.
It was, but it's not the craziest thing I've ever done. I've worked with bears. I've taught preschool. I traveled the whole country. I did 50 states in 52 weeks. My life has been very interesting.
50 states, 52 weeks.
Yes.
That's a lot of traveling.
It is a lot.
What were you doing that?
So what initiated that was in 2016, I was diagnosed with a really aggressive type of cancer. It was different types of cancers are in my family on both sides.
Okay.
So I had inevitably thought that eventually I would get cancer, but I didn't know that I would get it at 28. I was diagnosed at 28 years old, and at that point, they said that the type that I had was very aggressive, and one of the kinds that was not as easy to treat, it was called triple-negative breast cancer. And so with that kind of cancer, the treatments that were available they didn't really have a whole lot of research behind them yet. So I went through chemo for 6 months and survived. And then I had a double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery and got better. And in the process of all of that, my ex-husband was just the biggest advocate of mine. He helped encourage me and inspire me, and he and I had come up with the idea of traveling to all the different places that my mom never had the chance to go to. My mom had passed away from blood and bone marrow cancer years before, and she loved traveling. She had kept a charm for all the different states that she had been to and all of her favorite places. And I had received all of her traveling brochures and was going through them while I was sick, kind of as a way of like getting to know my mom a little bit better, and also just to kind of take the time in a happy place while I was sick. So that's how it started. Was we were like, we're going to go to all the places that my mom always wanted to go to, that she loved and wanted to go back to. And he was a singer-songwriter and also an author. So what we decided was we were going to take this tour and visit all these places. We were going to promote his music, his book, and we were going to share my story of beating adversity through cancer by doing different fundraisers and charity events to support other people going through cancer, other patients that were at hospitals, and other communities that needed a little extra inspiration. So that's what we did. We traveled to all 50 states, inspiring people along the way.
Well, I'm glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
That's a heck of an experience, I'm sure.
Yes.
Probably one that you won't ever forget, even if you wanted to, in some regards.
Yes.
I'm sure it wasn't all laughs and cakewalk. What was your first job out of college? Was it easy to find something in your field, or?
It was not. From the time I was little, about 8 years old, is when I was involved in 4-H and Girl Scouts, and I had gone to summer camp every single summer. I loved camp, and I always wanted to be a camp director. I always wanted to teach people about nature, and I had looked for all kinds of jobs, and I had done multiple internships. I went to Unity, like I said. All those different things helped line me up for finding the right job, but the truth of the matter is there aren't very many jobs like this, and the ones that are seasonal. And I had gotten to a point in my life where I was ready to start a family. So for a little while, I just chose a different job. So that's why I started teaching preschool. I never expected to teach preschool, to be perfectly honest. I always thought I would be in bear dens or chasing moose or wrestling deer or whatever else I have done in the past. But I found a job closer to home so that I could start a family. And then when I found this job, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the dream job that I've been wanting since I was 8 years old. It's full-time. I get to open my own nature center. The building has always been here. As far as I know, it was always known as the warming house, but I got to add my touches to turn it into a nature education facility. So eventually, once we're out of COVID, we're hoping to open this building up so that people can come in and explore all different kinds of science and nature things. But for now, it's working as a hub so that we can still teach all those science and nature programs here at BVRA.
That sounds like a pretty unique vision. I'm going to rewind for a second here. You said that going into a bear den was not your craziest thing you've ever done in nature. What is crazier than going into a bear den with bears?
Wrestling deer with antlers. That's very scary. and might not sound scarier than working with bears, but the bears were sleeping. They were hibernating, and then we tranquilized them. I would run into or run towards a trap that contained a deer, whether it was a doe or a buck, whether it had antlers or was antlerless, and I would go into that cage willingly and I would wrestle them. Granted, I was wearing a hockey helmet to protect my face, but I would go into that cage to wrestle them, and then once I was on top of them, holding them down, restraining them, that's when my partner would come into the cage. Then they would tranquilize it, and then we would collect all the blood samples, tissue samples, check GPS collars and all of that. But I was like that person that like charged in after the deer before the tranquilizers were given. So that was pretty intense.
That sounds a little backwards to me. Tackling it before you tranquilize it.
Yes.
I'm glad that I have not had to do that. I'm picturing you with a hockey helmet right now. I could see maybe shoulder pads even, you know, and just running in there and trying to tackle this deer. That's a funny picture in my mind.
It is. And the most important part of it is even though you're running in after this deer, they're going to be startled because they're not used to human interaction. So you have to do it quick and you have to do it as efficiently as possible. So we went through multiple trainings beforehand to make sure that we were doing it properly and to keep the safety of the deer as the number one priority. So you had to be quick, you had to be efficient, and then as soon as we would get them settled down, we would put a mask over their face, and just covering their eyes would help calm them as well. So all of those things did happen once the first interaction was there.
Did you ever catch an antler somewhere? Or?
A few times, yeah. And I've had lots of bruises, lots of scratches, yes. Never from bears, only from deer.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll come back in just a minute. Welcome back to One on One. Our guest today, Becky Cunfer, Nature Director of BVRA. So you said you had a hard time finding a job in the field that you were looking for, but here you are now. What led you to come here? And tell us a little bit about, you were mentioning some of the new hopes and programs that you have coming here.
Absolutely. So when I couldn't find a job, I had started a nonprofit called Evergrowing Inspirations where I got to do lots of science and nature programs for kids. I still do some of that on the side, and those programs are all oriented towards wildlife, forestry, wilderness survival, all those fun things that all the kids and their families want to learn about. And so I'm really excited to have brought that here with me to BVRA. BVRA is known for their outdoor programming, and in the past it's been a lot oriented towards like sports and those types of things, which we're still going to be doing a lot of sports, competitive and non-competitive. But with my background, I'm going to be bringing a nature theme to all of our summer camps. So we'll be doing a different theme each week, everything from wilderness survival to walk on the wild side, into the woods, which is all about forestry. There's cracking the crime, which is all about wildlife forensics, waterworks, which is going to be about the water cycle, all kinds of things like that. So that is for our adventure age group, which is ages going into grades 1, going into grade 6. And then we also have our Explorers program. We currently are launching 3 different program series. One is Nature Explorations. That's for ages 2 to 5. And that's any kind of nature explorations out in our Emerald Drake Play Garden. So the kids get to work in the garden, they get to play at the music wall, they get to have story time, all kinds of things like that that are nature themed. There's also Lost Exploraciones Españoles, which is the Spanish version of that. It is the Spanish explorations.
That's a mouthful.
It is, and I unfortunately am not very good with Spanish, but we have an awesome leader here who is very good with Spanish, and she leads that program. And then we also have Woodland Explorations, which is being led by one of our AmeriCorps members. And then we also are doing a mini camp series for that same age group during the summer camp series as well. And then in addition to that, so that's ages 2 to 5, and then the summer camps are ages going into grade 1 to grade 6, and then we also have a junior leadership development program, so that's for ages 12 to 15. It's completely free of charge, and we're kind of filling in a gap because we've noticed in the community there aren't programs for that age group, so we're offering it free of charge to get those children into a safe, friendly place to learn and become leaders in their communities, and they'll be working as camp counselor assistants and helping out with different programs throughout the summer as well.
So you said you have a background in some child care. How is that going to help you leading into this, with the nature stuff?
I think it's been such a huge asset to me because through my preschool experience, I was able to learn how to make lesson plans. I learned about state standards. I learned about the child development and growth cycle. So I have a much better understanding of where children are in their learning development. So I can help our leads and our camp counselors better assist the children that are going through different conflicts, or also just in the learning process. We're able to provide modified programs to meet the needs of different age groups and also special needs as well.
I think if I had a choice, I'd much rather take my chances with the bears than a group of preschoolers, but that's just me.
I like both. It's fun to keep things interesting.
I was going to say, it takes a special person to want to work with kids and young kids. You seem like you're very energetic, very peppy. Are you looking forward to working with the little ones and having a whole bunch of them running around here?
Absolutely. I can't wait. And the best part is with the programs that we're offering this summer, I get to do both things. I get to work with kids and wildlife because while we're doing these summer camps, we're also going to be having guest speakers twice a week. And so we have the Pennsylvania Game Commission coming out. They're going to be doing a bat program. They're going to be doing programs about different types of wildlife species. We've got the Susquehanna River Basin Commission coming out, and they're going to be talking about freshwater species and doing an electrofishing demonstration. So I get a little bit of both worlds here, which is great.
Now, for those parents who are thinking of sending their kids and kids that are thinking about, do I really want to come to a nature camp? How hands-on is this?
I would say it's as hands-on as every child wants it to be. Of course, we want all of our kids to participate, and we're going to encourage them to. There's going to be so many opportunities to have that hands-on learning. My motto, honestly, is if a child comes home at the end of the day and they're clean, what did they learn? Really, truly, like some parents, when they send their kids to school, they're like, please make sure they come back with their clean clothes. And I'm thinking, what on earth? Like, if they're not out digging in the mud or they don't have paint on them, what are they really learning? So hopefully our kids will be going home very muddy or very colored in paints or crayons or something.
I think kids will like that attitude and that motto because I have 3 of them and I know how dirty kids can get as a parent. Yes. And I also know how much my wife loves doing the laundry too.
Of course.
But that's okay. So what are some of the special activities that you guys have? I know you mentioned something about a night under the stars at one point.
Yes.
What is that about?
So we'll be doing lots of different events besides the program series that we're offering, and the different events are all individual registrations. So currently we're not advertising to the public the Great American Backyard Campout because we're trying to offer that to our children in camps first, but we will be opening that up to the public as of June 19th. That program is an overnight camping experience where families will get to come out, they'll get to bring their own food and their own camping gear and create their own meals on a campfire with the help of camp counselors. They'll get to play some outdoor games, and then we're going to do a backyard movie with popcorn as well, and then potentially stargazing in the evening as well. So that's the Great American Backyard Campout, which is actually a nationally recognized event that BVRA is very excited to be part of.
I was going to say, what is it about getting kids out in nature here that you think is so important? You're obviously really enthusiastic about it. You grew up with it. What is it about being outside and learning about our environment that makes it, so important for kids to come out?
I think it's a whole body experience. I think both for children and adults. I think being outside is just a great experience for the body, mind, and spirit. It's great for exercise. It's great for fresh air. It's great for building curiosity and investigative skills, for building communication skills with recording different things that you're seeing out in nature. I think all around is just a very dynamic experience that everybody should get to experience. And I think everybody, when they're experiencing nature, is learning something different, which is really cool, because that's something I think is often missing in communities or in typical education systems. And I think BVRA really is on target with, we're going to be celebrating each child's uniqueness, and they're going to be able to explore things in different ways while being outdoors. So anything from, we might tell them, draw a picture of a landscape. Well, won't it be interesting to see what each child's idea of a landscape is? Maybe one child will do an ocean, maybe one child will do a forest. I think it's great to make sure that kids are not forced into a box, that children are able to freely think and be celebrated for who they are individually.
Now, some people may not realize this because they look at the facility here and they see the building, but I know you guys have trails and other things. What kind of environment do you have here for the kids to go trekking around in?
So that's the great thing about BVRA, is some of the other local organizations that are here, they have great facilities, but we have outdoors. We have land. That's what makes us special. So we have the ice rink, which in the summertime acts as our field and our main space for all of our summer camp programs. We have the warming house, which is now going to be the nature center when it's not being used as the warming house for ice skating season. We have the Lewisburg Community Pool. We've got an entire beautiful playground that has multiple different age level spaces for the children to learn and play. We've got the Westfield Trail System, which we actually had Bucknell students helping us get prepared to do some trail improvements. And we're doing programming in all those different spots. And then in addition to that, we also have a gymnastics center, which I'm told is one of the best in the area as well.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and best of luck building this up. And for parents with kids looking for something to do this summer, come on down to the BVRA and feel free to check it out.
We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching One on One. Be sure to tune in again for another edition.